As in 2021, the author of German gay comics Ralf König made a Lucky Luke homage, there was just one no-go from the publisher. Lucky Luke can't be gay nor smoke. I like the beginning of the new 102 issue. Your protagonist, the never getting older Lucky Luke, is getting older. He has some problems with the motoric. His back is painful, he needs to see a doctor, etc. Even the original title is Un Cowboy Suppression. There is like a word game also, but if we want to translate it word by word, a cowboy under pressure. He's definitely not 20 anymore and do his job without any impediments. How was it for you making him getting old, weaker, etc.?
I think it's important for the new heroes to have actual bodies. In the former albums, he was seasick. In another album, he put on weight. In another one, we see the Daltons going to the toilets. So this was totally new in Lucky Luke history. So it was natural for us to have a very human hero, not a plastic character. So this was like the new things we want to be developing into the series, even though we still keep on the old references. We're not making a revolution, but a very soft movement toward modernity.
Exactly, and you said HD would be the one who is keeping this tradition of Lucky Luke. Why so?
Of course, I didn't want at the beginning to change the characters. For me, a revolution is stupid. It was a real hero in the spirit and in the mind of the kids and the adults. And it was really, for me, unthinkable to change my hero. But don't forget, Lucky Luke has and will have always 35 years old. It's not a young cowboy, but in the West, in the Old West, 35 years old, it was old.
Since 1983, the chain smoker Lucky Luke holds a blade of grass in his lips instead of a cigarette. The character of him, how he is drawn, changed too, as you said already. What development or what regression can you notice reading the comic before you started to draw it and after you started to do it?
Oh, you must know that this great changement was only a sort of mistake. Because, in fact, Maurice had a contract with the American studios for a movie, but in a cartoon. And Hanna-Barbera didn't want that his cowboy smoke. So we say, okay, if you want. He didn't care of the problem. And at this same moment, one of the producers of Hanna-Barbera knows an important people of the OMS, Organisation Mondiale pour la Santé, Health Mondial Organization. And when they knew that, they say, oh, incredible, yes, marvelous, a new campaign, non-smoking. So one day, Maurice received a phone call. They say, we are very, very happy to thank you for that, and we want to give you the health medal of the OMS. And the poor Maurice was like a prisoner. He must accept the thing. So in one day, he must change everything. And I remember he told me he must change everything in an album, because before with the cigarettes and after with only something in the end is the grass. The difference before and after, it's only my one regret. That Lucky Luke can move and play with his hands to prepare a cigarette. It was really the aspect of the real cowboy, as my generation and the old generation discovered and appreciated in the movie, in the Western movie. Now it's different. Nearly 30 years after this separation, for the new generation, you are sure when you see a guy with a cigarette, he's a bad guy. But my generation, and I think for Jules too, it was something important. Smoker, I remember Humphrey Bogart for the Polar. I remember the great hero, they use cigarettes they are elegant. And for the cowboy, of course, it was their only one pleasure with coffee. Don't forget it, because their life was very hard. So, of course, it's not really exact, but maybe it's nice because the first aspect of Lucky Luke is for kids.
I can imagine Maurice, the original author of Lucky Luke, could have been as an idol for both of you when you were younger. Maybe I am wrong, I don't know. Now you are continuing his work. How is it for you?
As for me, it's very magic. I'm doing the writing of the story, so my ancestor is more Goscinny, probably. But anyway, when I was a kid, I didn't know there were some authors for comic books. I thought comic books would just come like fruits from a tree, without nobody working upon it, you know. And it was quite late that I understood that there were actual living people doing the cartoons, writing the stories, and that was a surprise. And then I could consider myself like hoping to do that kind of job. But before that, it was just out of magic. Like, you know, sometimes you invent tales to say to the kids how they just are conceived, because you don't want to mention sex. So you say like it's birds coming, it comes from an egg or whatever. It was the same thing for cartoons for me.
Oh, it's very simple. For me, I'm nearly 64 years old. Lucky Luke is my house, only my house. When I was a kid, it was something and somebody very important for me, like Asterix. And I remind one Christmas, I was 9 years old, and I received Lucky Luke against Jesse James. And it's still in my mind. I remember the aspect of the album. I remember my pyjama. I remember maybe the smell of the paper. It was incredible. It's something with me. And I'm sure for Jules it's the same thing. We have often memories of this great good time when we were kids.
Now we have the new album. The plot starts with the missing beer, and so the Wild West becomes boring. But there is actually much more social and industrial critique in that book. How did you come to that?
Actually, I needed an angle to deal with the German communities. So I began to do some research and read things, and I realized that one of the big business they had back in the time was into the beer business. They were really the leaders of this industry. So I thought, yeah, that might be an option. And then documenting all that, I saw that those factories were all gathered in a super German big city, Milwaukee. And this industry was the birth as well of socialist ideas, unions, and all that was super German. They were reading Karl Marx articles every week in the New York Tribune. They were making strikes, they were negotiating with beer barons who were German as well. And actually the very first socialist mayor of a city in the whole American history was a German socialist worker. So this is quite unexpected. And there were so many options for gags and jokes into a factory, you know, with machines, with all the references we have, like Charlie Chaplin, Modern Times movies, and all those references. So we thought we could just explore all those dimensions, which were quite enticing for a storyteller and for a cartoonist.
Or the Muppet Show, or the James Bond. Did you need to see it again, or you just had it so perfectly in your mind before sketching?
Oh, no. For me, the picture is so important as the story. And if I can give more smile by my sketch, by my picture and illustration, I am really happy. So during this great fight in the theater, to put the two old guys of Berjeaut, of course, at the beginning it wasn't in the scenery. I know it was not really, but after, I think we understand that we need to have collaboration between the sketch and the story. It's a unique thing. And if I can give more aspect and more details to a story by my own sketch, so the little cherry on the top of the cake. And for me, it's really a pleasure. Of course, my generation and the generation around 40 knows Muppet Show. For the kids, I'm sure it's very, very fair. But a little part for this guy and the other guy. Don't forget Asterix, Lucky Luke. You have different level to read. When you read an album of Lucky Luke, you can read it like a kid, like a middle, and like an adult. And it's marvelous, the sort of comics, they are for everybody. And you can read the books after maybe 10 or 20 years. You discover always a different little aspect you haven't seen when you were a kid.
You mentioned already you were over 60, and the scene in the theater, of course, it's Statler and Waldorf. But I also was thinking about you two guys, that you are this, because, like, for example, that was obvious in paintings, that a painter was painting him or herself in a corner somewhere, or in the darker room or whatever, just to make the eternity for himself, that I am also in this painting. And Nabokov also said that, yeah, that was obvious, that writers maybe hide themselves, even if it was like objective narrative they put themselves. How was it?
Yeah, you are very cruel, because we don't look, all of us, like the two old guys from the Muppet shows. But maybe if I'm somewhere in the book, maybe I am the dog, I am Rantanplan, because I've got the same character. And I don't know who Hervé pretends to be.
Avril.
Okay, so we are even worse.
No, it was, of course, irony now with the question, of course, yes. Okay, there is some Wild West German America history, as said. The Germans brought the hot dog to America, the Christmas tree, the ketchup, even the hamburger. You decided to take the Germans, and the beer barons are all German there in the comic. But, well, it's a Belgian comic series, and maybe not many know that the most beer sourced in Europe come from Belgium. Germany is in a stagnation, not to say regression. We know the scandals connected to the CO2 emissions through the German cars. The digitalization here in the country is overslept. Pandemics showed how many things are simply not working in Germany. One big mythos from the past. Why the Germans?
Well, actually, everybody is in a mess. So take any country in the world, you don't want to live there. I mean, we don't even know where to hide now. The process is destruction, and I'm super pessimistic about everything. So I love Germans. I love German beers. I love to eat German gastronomy. And I love to travel in Germany. That may sound awkward from a French, because there was this old antagonism between the two countries. But believe it or not, I spent half of my summer vacation in Bavaria this year. And I enjoyed it very much.
Well, sure, for holidays it's always good, but if the trains are getting delayed, it's not fun anymore. The fights of the indigene folks are peanuts if one compares that to the German trade unions. There is like a quotation from the comic. But Lucky Luke becomes a leader of one of them in that setting, an opera from Richard Wagner, some other things which made me smiling. What stereotypes about the Germans do you have or you know from Belgium?
Actually, the big thing from all other countries in Europe around Germany is the strict abiding by the rule they have. When they see a traffic light, they watch the traffic light and they respect all the rules. And we don't do that. We cross like randomly the streets, and we are late, and we are not really strict as German is. So this is maybe a quality and nil aspect at the same time. And it's like that for everything. Every quality has its bad side. So the best thing is to make jokes about all that and to make links between people and between communities. And this is what we wanted to do as well. I mean, through comedy, make something in common for these German references and the other countries around.
How could it be different? The main character needs to put some fine note to his own story and the story of the beer history in America. I have this one panel in my mind where he's falling after the one Dalton and puts his own note to the beer, really worldly. Am I right?
Yeah, actually, everybody brings his own drop into world history. The German community did that in American history. So if you consider the flow of history like a brew, then yeah, we are all part of the taste. And that's the way we like it.
Yes, USA is a melting pot. It's the reason why when I heard Donald Trump, it's crazy. They are all immigrants. It's incredible. And German, Sweden, French, of course, Italian, and of course Mexican. All these guys arrive in this country, and they have made this country. And it's like a good bravo. You like the taste, as he said. It's more important. You have a lot of little particle come from everywhere, and it's like a good wine or a good beer. But I'm gonna give you a secret. I prefer the Belgian beer. The taste is better. Really, I'm sorry for the German beer. No, I prefer. Maybe the Americans have a great production of beers, but for me, it's I don't know to give the words. Usually we said about it, but it's like a piece. It's not really. The worst beer in the world is Budweiser. Budweiser. Oh no! It's impossible to drink it.
Mort subite, I know this one. I know.
Yeah, Mort subite, Divel, Jupiter. Yeah.
We don't want to spoiler too much, but it's not the only thing Lucky Luke is successful with in the book. I will try to create a dramatic frame for our talk. To continue a series, the authors meet the protagonists all the time, at least the main protagonist. Such main protagonists can't die. Actually, they are like vampires who dead, of course, but still alive forever. Will Lucky Luke die at least?
You know, there is always a trouble with vampire about mirrors and shadow. They don't have reflection and they don't have a shadow. Lucky Luke has one, so he cannot die because of that. He's not a vampire. He will be living forever with his shadow, and his shadow will be among us. Amen.
It's good. He used a lot of drugs. You can tell that. It's incredible. No. It's true. For me, it's more simple. As I said, Lucky Luke is always 35 years old. Imagine next year, 80 years old. 80 years old. Incredible. And he's always young.
Like Berlusconi. But Berlusconi, finally, he died.
No. You crack everything I have said.
Merci à vous.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much.